Before I begin, I would like to share some news about a team that you probably do not hear about on a daily basis. That is the Taft ski team. Last Wednesday, 11 of us drove up to Maine to compete in the New England Championships. Among 14 other schools, we came in second place in the girls slalom, girls giant slalom, boys giant slalom, and first in the boys slalom. Although this was a team effort, a few individuals should be recognized for their dominant performances. Sarah Riley led the girls team with a first place finish in the girls slalom and a second place finish in the girls GS. Not far behind her was my sister and co-captain Kramer Peterson, with a third place finish in the slalom and fifth place in GS. Henry Conlon continued to be very good at sports with a second place finish in the boys slalom, and Eli Cooper, representing Glassbury, Connecticut well, finished first in both the boys slalom and GS. It has been utterly ridiculous how much the culture of the Taft ski team has changed in my 4 years on the team, and I cannot thank the team enough for making my last year one that I will never forget. Anyways, on to my speech. Before I stepped onto the Taft campus as a student for the first time, this school did not necessarily feel new to me. My grandfather went here, so did my mom, so did my dad, and so did two of my uncles. For as long as I can remember, my parents would bring me and my siblings to Taft for Alumni Day. Before I realized it was a school, I dubbed the place one of my favorite playgrounds. Thus, I felt destined to be a Taftie. Destiny was confirmed on March 10, 2009, when I received my acceptance letter from Mr. Frew. However, my destiny might did not stop there. My plan for what I was going to be and to do at Taft was simple. I was going to be a football player and lacrosse player just like my dad, and a hardcore student just like my mom. My perceptions about destiny were only encouraged when I learned that I coincidentally had the same room that my dad had for his first year. Edging out Henry Perangeri as the lightest player on the football team and lacking any football experience, I was not going to have an easy time playing football my freshman year. My first few days at Taft were filled with me getting knocked to the ground to the point where I could barely walk, and Mr. Cedars shouting at me, "It's not your fault your father went to Amherst." Despite my struggles, I knew I was only a freshman and I will cross paths with destiny for football sometime in my upperclassmen years. Fast forward 2 years and a couple of months, I was a larger version than my freshman self, but I still did not look like any football player. As many of you know, we were pretty good. Brendan Foley was outright crazy. Timmy was throwing bombs, and nobody could touch Heward. And then there was me, the kid that got yelled at for trying to tackle in practice. The kid whose favorite part of practice was the conditioning. Needless to say, I discovered that football was not my destiny. What I longed for was a run, a very long run. When I watched the cross-country team race each other around the track during a football practice, I made up my mind. I was going to switch to cross-country for my senior year. I could not have been happy with my decision. Although I have many great memories that I will cherish from my 3 years of Taft football, I will never forget my 1 year of cross-country. The handstands Ben Tweedy, Dan Rubin, and I would do after practice races in a black box stances. James Talkis getting us fired up before every race. Passing 4 hot shoes racers on the last mile alongside who other than Matt Wee. Finding a perfect rhythm with H for miles in the Litchfield Woods. Sharing incredible conversations with Coach Palmer and Coach Padgett about running Taft and life on a daily basis. And of course, tossing Teddy Zollner into a freezing pond in preparation for his first varsity race. Now, jump back a year and a half to another struggle with my destiny. After spending my freshman year on JV lacrosse, I felt that it was time for me to move up to the next level. Playing on varsity was all that I could think about, and all I wanted. It was something that I had already written for my Taft story. Kramer Peterson, sophomore, Taft varsity lacrosse midfielder. As you might expect, I was absolutely crushed when I learned that I would be playing on JV again. However, before I knew it, this JV team turned my frustration into elation. We were a team that showed up to games with no more than 15 players. However, under the guidance of Coach Bender and Coach McGee, our game plan was simple but effective. With Will Reed's speed and Will Pope's size, the opponent's offense wouldn't do much. Angus Vibrance would make a couple of diving saves, then throw 50-yard strikes to me. From there, I had many options. I could hand the ball to Andrew Trevenin, who would run through 4 kids to score. Or, as I did about 3 times a game, I could toss the ball over to an open Raymond Plunkett for a goal. This was a special team, with special coaches and players, and I am grateful to have been a part of it. Unfortunately, the situation with lacrosse my sophomore year did not prevent me from prematurely writing my own future. Both of my parents had been monitors for their junior year, so I figured I was going to be a monitor my junior year too. Made perfect sense. I did not expect to see a rejection letter come in my P.O. box because that was not part of my pre-written destiny, but it came. After several days of being down and confused, I decided it was time to move on. So I accompanied Elias Clough to ISP for our junior year. There, we developed a strong bond with 8 other classmates. Whether we were listening to Joe Paduano complain about something, bugging David Sohn, the heart and soul of ISP, or playing wiffle ball at Headmaster Circle, the 10 of us reaped the benefits in living in the smallest dorm in the school. This was not the junior year I'd planned on having, but it was certainly a fulfilling one. I know that not all of you have a legacy at Taft. I also know that many of you did not visit Taft annually before you began your career here. However, whether you call it pre-written destiny or not, I am sure all of you, student and faculty alike, have prematurely expected to achieve something at Taft. And, unless you are some sort of divine being, you have experienced the agony of not meeting an expected accomplishment. Taft is no different from the real world. We are not simply handed achievements. Moreover, although hard work does indeed go a long way, I can tell you that a strong effort does not necessarily promise anything. At Taft, I have learned that character is not based upon all of the achievements and awards that one racks up, but instead how that individual will react to disappointment, defeat, and despair. In our competitive ambitions and ambitious drives to succeed in whatever facets of our life, many of us, including myself, develop a tunnel vision in pursuing our goals. As a result, we become prone to devastating disappointment. Due to our pre-written destinies, we forget all of the wonderful things that we already have in our lives and the opportunities that we have not yet encountered. So, when you're trying out for that varsity team, competing in that regional music festival, or applying for that job position, remember to keep an open mind. I would like to thank a number of people for enriching my Taft experience. Mr. Heavenridge for providing guidance whenever I needed some. Mr. D and Miss May for helping me become a much more efficient student and opening the doors to the lovely Learning Center. I hope to be the all-time leader for hours logged there. Mr. Piacenza and Miss Lara for both putting up with me as a student for 3 years. The football coaches for trying to make me good at a sport that I was painfully unnatural at playing. Coach Palmer and Coach Padgett for encouraging my 1-year stint in cross country. Coach Donalfo and the lacrosse coaches for patiently helping me progress as a player. Will Pope for being a good pet. And my 4 roommates, Alec Johnson, Percy Agarate, Elias Clough, and Jake Merrill, for putting up with my ridiculously loud and long wake-up routine. Last year's ISPers and my boys from HT4, this year for making the last 2 years so special. Mr. Caesars for holding very enjoyable conversations with me whenever we are on duty together, even after learning that I will go to his rival college. Mr. Mack for writing me a touching letter of encouragement when I needed it most. And I could not have asked for a better group of young men and women to accompany me on this journey the past 4 years than the class of 2013. Thank you.